All right, everybody. This is again the Housing Pros building profitable, affordable housing. We've had a few classes for those of you who joined us for the classes that you've attended before. Welcome back, and those new folks, we're going to always go through some of the basics as we get through as we go through this training over the next few months, particularly as it relates to the economics that you must learn in order to build profitable housing. This piece is, we've been going over the last two sessions, and the upcoming session, two sessions, we're going over gut and rebuild, which is the most difficult housing, but the most profitable housing you can do. And so the one we're in today, I'd like to introduce my cohort, and now actually our partner in development, our co-partner developer, Sergio Moranto.
Hi, I'm Sergio Moranto. Nice to meet everybody. I'm the general contractor, turning all these outhouses into your penthouses.
Absolutely. And I put a little teaser here at the end. Next, in 2 weeks, we have a surprise for you. We will be at the Godzilla of all gut and rebuild next in 2 weeks. It's going to be it's the most massive type of rebuild you can do with almost expansion, foundation, roof, everything basically. But the most, and these kind of houses are where a lot of you will be scared to probably even look at it, but they're actually, once you start to do them and you get a rhythm, they're actually quite simple in many regards. All right, good. We're at stage 2. What do you do after the interior demo? All right, you found a house, or in this case, this is actually a condo that had water damage and had smoke damage. So it had to be gutted. We're at 7300 Sunshine Skyway, lane south in unit 110. We're going to also go over, how we approach this at the letter in the presentation, and the stage we're in now, post demo, interior demo. Before we start, remember, you're going to hear this every single training class, folks. You've got to learn this. I mean, if you don't learn this, just wrap it up, because you're going to lose money and the banks will not lend you money. You drive your business, and the way I drive our business is really with the definition of economics. Learn this phrase. It's the maximization and utilization of scarce resources, with time being the scarcest resource. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, the richest people in the world, they wake up with just the same amount of minutes you do, but they don't follow, excuse my language, bullshit, or like a dog chasing a car, pipe dreams. They keep it very focused. And we're going to talk about utilization, and how that impacts what we call opportunity cost. Opportunity cost of an activity or option is the loss. If, hey, there's 10 houses, but I only have enough money to do 2 houses. You've got to look at that, not what you feel and you like personally, but what is going to be the best return for your investment, which particularly on the front side of this, as you started, if you're starting out new, you cannot afford any loss. Remember, your capital and time are constrained. Again, if some of you, this happens to me all the time. You have multiple choices, but you only have so much capital. Where do you put that capital and time? Remember, time. Again, I'll keep on reiterating this throughout the training. Time is your most valuable asset. Protect it. Protect it hard. Don't allow people to waste your time. Okay? Again, our model, the housing model, is really targeting, and bear with me, those who have heard this before, but I'm going to do it every training session. I'm going to pound this into you on what the model is, what the basics of it, before we get into the X's and O's. Remember, the market determines the scope of the housing program, not you, the market. You follow the market. And this is a big mistake most people do. They follow the market, or they follow a board member, they even follow a banker. I don't take the direction of my banks, even though they give me all the money. No, they don't know how to build like we do. But we follow the market. Just like right now, the market's shifting as we go. And by the way, every single year, we change our business model based on the market. Last year, we were most all rental. This year, and for the really foreseeable future, it's going to be for sale because housing costs have increased so much, construction costs. You know, you utilize the market on your acquisitions, you use it on your construction, you use it on your the market to determine your price points. You target opportunities outside of your target area, and that's for, and again, and the big one, Robinhood. We'll go into a little bit on this house we're in here. This was a Robinhood acquisition, but we're turning this beautiful condo on the water to a low moderate income rental where they'll be able to rent this condo on the water. We'll put in a Black Latino small family, or, you know, couple or elderly couple. We're probably looking at it more like a senior Black or Latino senior couple, and with the reduced rent of around 50%. Remember, the Robinhood model is blending profits with high income housing into your affordable housing program services. We're going to get a little bit more into that in the upcoming sessions, particularly on the next session, where you must start looking, you know, at these high-end product acquisitions and rebuilds to be able to bring that profit back into your entire program. And lastly, remember, we're going to also soon go into the capital piece. Capital is the name of the game, but your capital that we're going to show you and teach you and actually assist you in acquiring are from banks. But remember, these construction lines of credit, it's not your money. It is not your money. It's the bank's money. Only the profit is your organization's money or your business's money, only the profit. So you must protect that bank's money. And think about it. Here goes me, an economic civil rights advocate who beats the crap out of a banks for a living, but I protect their money because it's not my money, only the profits. But the better I protect it, the more capital we get. Gutter rebuilds versus demolition, new construction. We'll just go real quick over this. You know, you look at when you're looking at best use of how do you determine values. Here's some, and by the way, Robin will put this presentation on the website. You know, we're not going to get into the acquisition cost of the rebuild today at this session, but you know, we will get deeper into the acquisition cost, and we did last session of the gutter rebuild. You know, sales and closing costs it goes into your financial analysis. You know, your sales point goes into, you know, the end product for sale. But also, by the way, you also factor all of these. Like this one's a rental, that's factored into my analysis, economic analysis of an acquisition. You compare, you know, do you do a demolition, or you do, like here, gut rebuild, or like in 2 weeks? Some people would say, why did you just demo it? And it's a major Godzilla demo, but we're going to show you the economics of why we decided not to demolish it and rebuild it, a major rebuild, a gutter rebuild. You know, prior to rebuilding a home, you know, you do, of course, everybody, you do your financial analysis first, just like here. You do your financial analysis, you inspect the home, the interior, the exterior. Remember, the foundation and the roof. I'm going to keep on saying it, the foundation and the roof. And we'll show you the example from our last training session at Dawson of what we found. Remember, foundation and roof first. You determine the cost for building a home to make it FHA ready. I always tell Sergio and the subs, you know, make the house FHA ready, even though it may not be an FHA loan that the buyer is going to use. But FHA has high standards, you know, on the roof, the interior, safety, soundness of the asset. So always tell your folks, build it to make it FHA ready. Last week, we were at 2 weeks ago, everybody, remember Dawson? We were at Dawson. It was a Robinhood acquisition that we're almost doubling the profit, the cost versus our cost and acquisition. We're literally almost doubling it by some of the work and how we're rebuilding it. I wanted to come back to that because that lends itself to what me and Sergio are going to review today here at Skyway project. Dawson, for those of you who don't remember, let me show you real quick. what that Dawson looked like before. This was the house before when we got it. It looks good, right? But we're going to show you it wasn't so good. This is what it looks. You can see the water damage. You can tell there's water damage, especially on this side of the house. Major water intrusion on this side of the house. Mold throughout the house like this. That when you see that, and then, by the way, this house, like a lot of the acquisitions you're going to get on gut and rebuild, they've been empty for years. If they've been empty for 2 to 3 years, folks, you must gut it and rebuild it like it was new, including the ducting. Why? Mold breeds, it lives, and the spores expand throughout the house. Even if there's not water leaking into that area, it will expand just because, like every human, or rather not human, but every living organism, which includes us, we strive to survive and we multiply. So that's, I guess, mold having babies throughout the house, so to speak. It shows you where they look, some of the damages you can see. Nice, beautiful pool, and then let me show you the roof. Remember, roof and foundation. The foundation was okay on this house, but the roof wasn't so. Remember, this is what it was before. Now look at all the new wood. This is called subroof, right? This is the subroof. And all the new wood you see on that roof is where there was damage or leaks or holes, actual holes that had to be replaced. You can see that we replaced an awful lot of and look at, this is a chimney. Look at that water damage. I'm going to show you a little bit more where it shows actual, we're surprised it didn't catch on fire.
Yeah, I'm real surprised it catch on fire.
Look at, this is where, showing you how they take out, the subroof. And it's a lot of times you're going to see, like, we actually replace the beams, in the wood, even underneath the planks of wood, the rotten or the mold, in fact, or termite damage, and you replace that as well. Again, you can see how much of the roof, you saw where the roof, now we're getting ready to, this is part of the demolition of the roof. The rebuilding, we're almost done. Sheathing it. This is what the roof looks like after. Remember, this is what it looked like before. And by the way, this is what it looks like now. And you could tell we painted it. A little story there. We decided to paint this. And when you're doing a rebuild, a gut rebuild in a neighborhood, I like to do the roof and paint the outside so it looks beautiful. Why? The neighbors love it. And if the neighbors love it, they're going to protect your asset and your house. I'm telling you, there's been times where they've called the police for us, for somebody stepping on the house. They actually become they become emotionally connected to the house. And by the way, get this, we even took it a step further, Sergio and I. We let the neighbor pick the color of the house. And so her and her husband are going to, a retired couple for the military, they are going to watch his house like a hawk because they know that's part of them. But that's also a strategy we use. All right. We've just finished interior demolition. And here's what it looks like inside, just like here. We're going to, remember, when you get to the interior demo and you demolish it, that's the time to see about improving the interior design of a house. Or in this case, we're going to show you how we improve this condo over here. For this, we're going to take out most of this top. We're going to open this area here that you see. So when you walk in the house, it's much more open, right?
Yeah, it's a kitchen on the other side. So it's going to have an open concept kitchen. And it's going to be a nice open concept.
And one of the things you did here, we're going to show you, we'll get to a little bit. We're going to show you what Sergio did to the kitchen. You can see completely gutted. Some of the damage that we saw. This roof, by the way, this chimney was major. We basically had to gut the entire chimney because, and think about this, if you're cheap and didn't catch it, you would have to rebuild that whole part of the house And that would cost you 3 times as much money. You're gonna see, look at the damage of the water damage. We're gonna have to replace everything, including, what's that called? The
That's
metal,
The main pipe.
the flue pipe, everything, 100% being replaced. Look at the water damage. That water was coming in the house. And remember, you place the ducting, you can see how we, the roofing, you can see here some of the mold damage, the water damage, and how it really intruded into the house. Outside, we're actually, that's how much we're getting rid of that flute. Everything's being replaced.
That was the chimney.
Yeah.
It was.
That chimney, we just took almost 2/3 of it down to rebuild it.
Just collapsed.
Shows you, this is the chimney area. Look at how bad that was damaged. Look at this. You can see some of the water intrusion. This whole, what is that called? Had to be rebuilt. That was all.
The stand on the, it's not the mantle, but it's the stand actually on the bottom where all the tile is.
That's actually new. That's not the way it looked. We rebuilt that because it was completely, it was all rotted out. By the way, this is a kitchen. And believe it or not, tell them what you did to the kitchen. We actually, it used to be much lower.
Yeah, the ceiling was lower. Back in the 80s, the houses were always with the drop ceilings all around the perimeter of the kitchen inside. So all that was going out. We took it all out. Now it's raised high to match the rest of the kitchen. Gives you a lot more space, looks nicer, looks bigger. Kitchen actually looks a lot bigger that way.
You got it. And remember, folks, if it's got a lowered kitchen ceiling, get rid of it. Get rid of it. I'm telling you, when you see this house before and after, when we're done, and by the way, every house that we're doing and training you on, we're going to continually give you updates on the progress of that house and show you pictures. We're going to leave pictures at www.housingpros.org website. All right. But remember, folks, if you can open up the kitchen area or part of the house, open it up and make it more of an open plan, do that. It makes it look much bigger, but do not accept the lower ceilings. Take the lower ceilings and get yourself a good carpenter, who knows how to basically anything, when they're raising that ceiling that they should worry about or focus on.
Other than if it's sometimes if it's a 2-story house and it has those in it, sometimes they'll run vent stacks or pipes that go up to the second floor. So when you open it up, you'll see if it's something that you can do, or you can relocate those pipes. If you can relocate them, then take them out, and you'll add so much value to the house too.
You got to remember, we're opening up an entire wall. This was a pocket door. I don't know if you can see the mouse. We're getting rid of the pocket door and just going to have an opening. And here on this side, if they can see the mouse, this is where we're going to have. We're going to open up this entire wall. We're going to keep it here, make it almost like an island, but open up this entire top, and about 40% of the one side is going to open up. So it really is going to open up that kitchen. Remember, this interior demo is the time you need to redesign the house. That's the opportune time. And remember, bathrooms and kitchens, what sells? Bathrooms and kitchens. And if you can put a walk-in closet, put a walk-in closet. We always do a large walk-in closet. We expand the kitchen for more kitchen space, more shelving space. And we always want a larger bathroom. This master bedroom is going to have not only a sunken with a claw tub, a beautiful claw tub, just a soaking tub. It's going to have a separate shower. Again, this is the wall that we're eliminating, most of that wall. So it's going to completely open up this kitchen area and make it feel much larger than it is. All right. I mean, we're going to get ready to go into the actual interior demolition for Skyway. And I wanted to just break it up real quick to see if anybody has a question before we go into the actual electrical HVAC and what we did here and what we resigned in this condo and how we redesigned it.
Yep, we do have a few questions coming in, and people can unmute themselves if this question pertains to them. Yolanda asked regarding the condo, did the bylaws align to the Robin Hood model, or was there changes required for alignment?
No, actually, this is a good question. Remember, if something doesn't fit, like for instance, there's sometimes the bylaws in a condo are going to have like a first right of refusal. I won't buy it if it has a first right of refusal because they can come back and take it, the HOA. And by the way, I've come across, just happened about a month ago, where I was purchasing a house from Freddie Mac and it had a first right of refusal in it, but we we're going to make $40,000 on a 30-day job, and that we can bring back into our affordable house. And by the way, folks, what we do with our capital, we do two things with our profit. We go and buy homes cash and rebuild them for rentals. And then that also allows us to provide people anywhere from a 50 to 30% rental reduction rate, which in today's rising rentals cost, which is, it's a blessing for many people. But Yolanda, this one worked out perfect where it won't allow us, we have to rent it out. We have full, by the way, that's another thing. If the HOA is too restrictive, even on the type of tenant, then, I may not buy it. But this one was, they weren't going to restrict us on the type of tenant. They weren't going to restrict us on even the building. We had to, you're going to see they allowed, we're able to do some cosmetic things to improve the livability of this product, which you'll see on the next session or the next, right after the break. But the net return, let me give you kind of the net. We bought it for $280. We're going to put about 80 in it, and it's going to be worth 400. So that's kind of the large, the quick overview. So it fit perfect into a Robin model, and that extra equity is going to allow us to reduce the rent anywhere from 40 to 50% on a market rate.
Okay. And then we have from Joe, please talk about approved plans and engineering when removing walls and ceilings.
Very, 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 very good. Actually, we're going to get into that, and almost all interior demolition, and really basically all of them. And this is what's going to be important next week, why we're in 2 weeks rather, where you actually start the planning and the redesign. That's on the beginning stage. That's right at the beginning, because you will have to submit architectural sealed plans. Here, we actually, the city only asked us to read, what did they ask us to submit here?
They wanted just a drawing here. As long as we're not doing any structural walls, moving anything with involving structural, then it doesn't have to be a sealed drawing, but they do want a drawing of the layout and existing and proposed. They're always going to want that on rehabs no matter what.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't have to be an engineer stamp sealed if you're not doing any structural work.
You got it. But for most of the big jobs, most of the big interior demolitions, particularly the most profitable ones, you will have structural redesign, which we're going to show in 2 weeks, a major one. But it's a process like Joe, where of course, and Joe knows this, he's pretty good at what he does in regarding, you get with your team, you figure out how you can best redesign it. You have your draft or architectural person, or in our case, we have a drafts person who then who does the design for us, a redesign, puts together this, it gets the engineer and the architect to seal it and stamp it, and then we submit it to the city for approval. Remember, you cannot, for those type of jobs, even in even in the non-sealed ones, we had to wait for approval. Remember, you got to wait for approval. And this is the problem. Don't ever do a job without the proper permitting. That proper permitting goes onto the record. That record impacts the value of the house. So that's it with that. That's pretty much, and I put it kind of in general terms, but in 2 weeks, folks, we're going to actually, Joe, we're going to actually get into that most, I would say 2/3 of the session is going to be just on that initial stage of a major structural redesign of a house.
And last one from Ernest, what about barring or non-barring wall issues?
No,
Bearing,
you mean
I'm sorry,
bearing? Yeah.
bearing.
You want to answer?
Change the word.
What about low bearing or bearing walls versus non-bearing?
Yeah, and that again falls under the structural. If it's a bearing wall, and it is supporting trusses or second story.
And explain to the audience what a bearing wall is.
It's basically bearing is bearing weight, any weight as of a truss weight, your roof weight, or a second story floor joist will sit on top of your bearing wall. And that's just a weight bearing wall, and it's structural. So that's a structural, that goes back to that question of structural. You have to have sealed for that. But there are ways to fix that if you want to get away from that wall not being there, and it's a structural load wall. You can't put what's called a header there. It's a main header, and you can run that across the top as long as it's approved again by the engineer and have it all engineer stamped. You can do that and get rid of the wall.
You know, I think what the question and what Brian was trying to get to is when you look at the house and when you gut it, and that's the only time that's when you can really see which walls are what we call bearing walls. And bearing wall, in essence, let me put it in layman's terms. You take it out and it's gonna tumble. Some stuff is gonna fall. Part of the house is gonna fall. So you don't want that. Can you change and shift the bearing wall? We've done that before, like at Rome. You know, what we did at Rome. You can change, you know, we shifted and took out a bearing wall and shifted it, but you're gonna, you know, it has to be done, you know, I mean, you need some very, very capable people that are going to work on shifting and changing your bearing wall. But sometimes you have to change that bearing wall to open it up. We've done that before, but that's absolutely critical that your general contractor and you look at when you're redesigning where the bearing walls are at, and what do you have to do to those bearing walls in order to expand the house and put that into your plans.
And like you said, make sure that you get somebody who knows what they're doing when it comes to doing a structural wall. Because if they don't, and they do it wrong, you're gonna have a lot of problems.
Very big problem. Yeah, I mean, major problems. And so the bearing walls are, like I said, you know, and some people, like I said, that's where, again, you hire yourself. Don't be cheap. Don't be trying, do something on the sly, hire licensed contractors who know what they're doing. And especially if they're going to work on your bearing walls, because that's really, that's the bones of your body. The bearing walls are like the bones, like your actual bones in your body. Those are bearing walls.
Does anyone else have any questions? You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to ask Al or Sergio directly. Right, if not, then go ahead. And Sergio, I just want to remind you to just speak into the mic when it gets to you, just so we can hear you a little better.
Okay.
All right, after the demolition, all right. Framing to the new floor plan. Once you get to, and we're going to actually walk through this, we're going to actually take a walk through what we did here and how and why we did it. But after we go a little bit over the kind of the framework of the of the interior interior demolition, you've put your plans in. They've been approved, whether they're sealed or just drawings. They've been approved by the city or the county. And you go in and do your interior demolition, just like what you see behind us. And you do, at that point, like you're going to see what we did here. We did do some modifications to improve the livability and also the value of the house. But the very first thing you're going to do is electrical, plumbing. And remember this, you're going to see this in some other pictures. That also includes plumbing beneath the floor. If it's concrete, you're going to see here, we actually moved the toilet a little bit So we did do some, a house will, in our rebuilds, gutter rebuilds, we change the plumbing now underneath the ground 100% of the time. And that improves not only the structure of the house and increases the longevity of the house and particularly the plumbing, but it increases the value. So you're going to do the electrical, the plumbing, that includes below the floor necessary, above and below the ground, and then your HVAC. And folks, don't be cheap again. You're going to change not only the HVAC system, put a complete new system in. That means the air handler, and the outside equipment, but also you're going to put in new ducting, right?
Yeah, that's important too, because a lot of times the old ductwork will have, sometimes it gets condensation in there, and it just gets moldy, and you don't want the mold spores, especially when you're just finished doing a gut rehab and everything's brand new, and then you leave that old ductwork and it's all, there's mold spores coming out of there.
You got it. Don't be cheap. Remember, you're documenting everything with pictures and photos like I spoke about last session. And by the way, for those of you new, you document I take hundreds of pictures of all the gut rebuilds and even new construction, but particularly the rehabs and the gut and rebuild, their documentation that you use to increase the appraisal of the house. And also if you're selling it, it actually increases the sellability of the house, because when people see, the guts of the house being rebuilt, it makes them feel safer, and they really feel like it's a new house, and it is a new house for all intent purposes. All right, we're at 7300 Sunshine Skyway. And this one, we're going to go through the house right now and tell you what we did and why we did it. So bear with us. We're going to actually take the camera, and we're going to shift over the mic, and then we're going to walk through the house and go through, hold on, let me see how I do this. All right. Let me see. Robin, can they hear us?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, folks. First off, remember, kitchens and bathrooms. So we're going to start with the bathroom, right? This place was a mess, and so tell us a little bit, Sergio, how you redesigned and what you did for the kitchen to improve it.
Well, the first thing we did was add this knee wall here for a bar top. So that wasn't here. Adding this adds value, and plus you put your top out here, someone can sit here and eat at your bar top. Your kitchen sink. We basically did all new plumbing, all new electrical in here.
What was wrong with the plumbing before?
The plumbing, the water heater was in a cabinet that was in the corner cabinet. That's just wrong. I mean, it's been done, but it's just not conducive.
Where are we putting the water heater now?
Now we're switching that to the HVAC closet, which is going to be a lower, smaller water heater, and then the HVAC air handle will sit above it.
And by the way, another thing is all the plumbing, this is going to be almost in every house. It was copper or lead, right? Steel, we changed it to PVC, correct?
Correct. Everything's CPV.
Whenever you can see, so you can see where you can actually see some of the copper in there. You can see, and by the way, you can see, we actually talked about the little, on the flooring, it was all tile, and we're going to put in waterproof wood flooring like you've seen in all our other houses. And what company? We hired a new company actually, and they worked out well.
We have a company called Easy Out Flooring, and basically what they do is they come in when it's tile, if it's on concrete, basically they come in with a riding machine, and they basically tear this tile out, they scrape the concrete, get all your thin set off. Basically, it's ready for flooring right now. It's all ready for flooring, so they clean everything.
And
what was the name of that company?
Hello? All right, so, and remember, when part of this is going to be, you're going to see the wiring. You always put a new electrical box, right? It's expensive, but it adds value to the house. Anything on when they put the electrical box in? Was it there before?
It was in the same spot, and that's really the only spot it can go in because this unit's small. Of course, all the wiring is new, and it's a new box, and all the breakers are gonna be new, everything's gonna be new in it.
You got it. Tell us a little bit, why did they put the tub in here and put water in here? Probably get
That's a
closer.
water test. That's a water test to test for inspection. You have to have water in it for the actual inspection to make sure it's not leaking. So that's why that's in, and we want the tub in now before all the flooring goes in and everything goes in, the Durarock, sheetrock goes in. We want all that in now.
And this, by the way, that's the ducting. Remember, we changed all new ducting, correct?
Yes, and all this.
Look
all
at,
this
you see,
framing.
all new framing here. Why did we put, it was termite, right?
Termite damage.
And that's another thing. What are we gonna have the wood termite treated?
Yes, we are.
You always have the wood termite treated. Don't be cheap. Them damn termites, I'm telling you, they're notorious. This is the new, you saw how we reframed. This is where the HVAC system is going.
So the water heater will go underneath it, your unit will go above it.
You got it?
Split unit.
Now, what's going to be interesting is this is the washer dryer. Remember we're very little space here. And whether it's a house or a condo or townhouse, you always look to maximize your space. So we did some small improvements, but and you're going to see one of the things we did in a master bathroom. But one of the things we did was here, this was a closet on this side, but we turned it around so it could add more closet space to the master bedroom. And by the way, nice view of the water from the bedroom. Where, so we have closet space, a much bigger closet space here. It's small, but remember, this is a small place. And sometimes you're going to have small places, so you maximize space. This is going to be a closet over here. We're going to put a little closet here, right? I mean, this is going to be an open shelves for towels. And this is really important here. In your bathrooms, if you have 2 bathrooms, we always do this. Shower in the master, tub in the second bathroom. We always put a shower in the master because you always, and you can reverse it, but always have a shower and a bathroom and a bathtub, in the house. If you only have 2 bathrooms, that's from what we receive from people who sell and rent, that's more preferable. This was a little, tell us what are they doing there?
Okay, so that again, that's for the master shower. That's another water test. That's a liner. That's a bladder that goes around. Typically, I always put them in. I like to put them in no matter what. If you have the concrete was sunken down, it was cut down in that area. They don't require it by code to have to put that liner in there, but just to be safe, I always put it in. This way you're not having no leaks coming out of that shower ever. And then we moved the toilet over too. We actually moved it away from that shower because it was a lot tighter to the shower.
You got it. So they bore in the concrete and moved it over. So, and we're adding double vanity. Didn't have a double vanity before, adding double vanity. You always put it when you can, a double vanity, no matter how small or big it's going to be, in the master bedroom. Remember, double vanity. We're going to change these doors, but you could see where some of the damage came out here. We repaired what is the framing underneath. And by the way, let me see. For those.
Hey, Al, can you show the view again for people who joined in?
You got it. Can you see it? They got to pull over here.
Wow.
Did they see it, Robin?
Oh, yeah, they saw it. They're speechless.
All right. All right, so that kind of gives you a general overview. Let me go back on the presentation here real quick.
Can you pull the mic just a little closer?
Can you hear me? Oh, wait a minute. I gotta switch the mic. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah, I forgot to switch the, before we get into questions, that's kind of, the gist of it. I definitely want to talk a little bit more about what we did here for those of you who have any questions. But March 7th, that's the big one, folks, the Godzilla. I think this is going to be the most, on gutter rebuild is going to be the most important training. This gets into what Joe Serrano talked about. We're going to actually take you to a house where we haven't started work, but we've submitted the plans. We're going to go through everything we did on why we did it. We're going to rebuild a house. We're actually rebuilding the foundation, rebuilding the roof, expanding the house, doubling the size of the house. We're going to redesign completely the interior. It's just going to be a brand new house, and we're going to go into the economics of why we did that. And actually, I'll show you some picture of the house of what we're going to show you in 2 weeks. Dina, I think Dina saw this house. Really tiny house, built in 1932, I think, 32, something like that. Look at that tiny kitchen. Little tiny rooms. They're like a dollhouse. Dollhouses are bigger than this house, but we're turning it from a 2-1 to a, I think it's going to 4.2.5, 4.2, 2.5, so what we saw is you're going to see why, how we're expanded on both sides, why we're expanded and how we're expanding it. But this is the biggest type of rebuild you're going to come across, but it's the most profitable. And even if you rent to sell it, because you get to build it, that becomes so much more appealing to the consumer. And you can register. We'll send the registration link, but we've already set that up. So you can register for that. We'll send it out to everybody. But that pretty much wraps on kind of the gist of it. Are there any questions on this phase of the interior demolition, the post-interior demolition, as you're putting in specifically electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and how you approach that?
Yep, we did have a few questions. Again, if that question pertains to you, go ahead and unmute yourself. One of the things, the flooring, can you give the name of the company of the waterproof flooring?
Easy Out Floor Removal.
Or the wood flooring, the actual flooring? What's the flooring,
Yeah,
the waterproof flooring we use? Do you remember the name of it?
It's a smart core. We get it at Lowe's. It's a smart core, and all nationwide they should have that.
Yeah, it's called Smart Core. We use Smart Core because Smart Core actually has the best waterproof flooring. And by the way, we put waterproof flooring in 100% of the house, no more tile, because it becomes grouting. I mean, and people love it. I love it. Like it is so great. And they've got so many styles. It's a little bit, more expensive than the laminate, but it's so much more durable. It looks better. And it actually helps the appraisal of the house.
All right, thank you. Vanessa said, can you clean the ductwork? I heard it can be power washed.
Power wash inside the ductwork? I've never heard of that. I've heard of the brush cleaning, where you can actually do the brush cleaning, but I don't, because it's all, a lot of the ductwork is fiberglass inside. It gets, like the mold spores, they get stuck into that. So it's really hard to get that out. I mean, it's really hard.
No, listen, I completely.
And I thought it was a scam, so I just wanted to bring that up.
No, exactly. Listen, what it is, if you're going to do a gut rebuild or even a rehab, and if there's been mold in that house, and it's been sitting for, let's say more than a year, you got to replace the ducts. Replacing the ducts, especially when you gut it, It's going to be so uncostly, but again, you know, it helps the value, but that's the only way to get rid of all those mold spores, the only way. And by the way, folks, we're not investors like typical. Remember, mold hurts children and people, particularly children. It harms their health. So get rid of the get 100% new ducting.
Florence, did you want to add something?
Yeah,
Question? Go ahead.
my question is there any help like a resource to get a home? Because for me right now, I don't have no home on my own since the COVID. I just pack all my luggage and a storage.
Florence, I'll message you on the outside, okay?
Okay,
Outside of the session, so I'll get back to you, okay?
all right, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay,
All
bye-bye.
right. Joe had a question. Does HERS compliance apply to the areas that you're replacing the HVAC systems?
No, they don't here, not in our area.
Yeah, that's actually the HERS. It's Title 24 compliance. It applies here in California, but I was just wondering if they require a HERS, which is Home Energy Rating System. And it is a Title 24 heat load compliance requirement here in California. I was just wondering if it applied anywhere else.
You know, that's actually a good question. Regardless, even if it's every state has its own particular, and it changes sometimes overnight from windows to energy, you know, especially energy, you know, windows are in there too, besides just HVAC. And, you know, there's a lot of leaning toward, and I would imagine, Joe, because of the solar and, you know, the drive toward less, you know, fuel, fossil reliance, you know, a lot of these states are starting to create some of these ancillary laws that are going to impact, you know, the building of the house. But again, that's why it's critical to hire a capable, licensed professional. Like we always listen, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, roofing, we always make sure that they're independent and licensed, fully licensed and insured, because those four areas are critical, right?
Absolutely. You want to make sure they're licensed for sure.
And those folks that are capable and licensed, that's their job to find out if there are any particular incremental type of licensing or equipment requirements in building of that house. And I would imagine too, like we rely on like our electricians and our HVAC company to know that, to give you insight to anything.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They will give us insight if something is required. Plus the building department also, you know, when we submit plans, they will kick it back if you're not in compliance with what they're looking for.
And yeah, that's a good point. Like here in Florida, they completely redid the flood zones, right? And a lot of the requirements on the flood zones. So that's literally changed, what, 6 months ago?
Just, yeah, less
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
So Al, if I can just share with people that are going to be doing this kind of thing in California, the important thing about the Title 24 heat load energy compliance report is that whenever you're doing a rehab or you're doing an addition to, or even a new house, it has to be tested. You know, you have to determine how much heating you're going to need based on the heat loss. And what happens is when your energy consultant performs the report, he sends that document to the State Department of Energy and they log it. And if you're replacing the HVAC, they know that you're doing that. So they require that not only the designer, the contractor, the HVAC contractor, but they also have this guy called the HERS consultant. And they're all responsible for making sure that the HVAC system is installed properly. And when they sign off on that, they upload it to the State Department of Energy. And then now they know that you were going to do an HVAC brand new, and they also know when you upload these documents that you did it correctly, and that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, we see some of that, Joe. We see some of that same type of oversight, particularly when it concerns doors and windows here because of the hurricanes and the wind, certain type of wind loads. So you may have it for HVAC, but that also gets to the point, there are people from different states here that each state is going to have sort of like a sweet spot, so to speak, when it concerns construction, that they're really focusing on because of some of the environmental conditions within your city or state. So make sure you understand that. Now, for us here in Florida, it's wind and water, right? California, it's energy, and so, but every state I've seen, I've built in, there tends to be a little bit nuance to some of the construction requirements.
And to that, Joe, I don't know if they require in California air leakage test or blower door test. They do require that here, and it's basically for your windows and to make sure on the leakage of the air leakage, if there is any.
Yeah,
And,
here in
and
California,
Sergio also mentioned that they require energy calcs with any new construction projects. So they're calculating the proper size of the HVAC.
Yes.
right, and Sergio, the requirement here for blower door test is sort of optional. If you want to get a certification, it's a home energy rating that you can get in California.
Okay.
It's called BPI, which is I think British something Performance Institute or something like that.
Mhm.
And they perform a test called the BPI test. And once you get that test and you pass that test, you can submit that passing score to the state, and they will increase the value or the appraised value. You can get an increase in the appraised value from 10 to 30% because it's been tested and passed the BPI testing, which includes a blower door.
Okay, beautiful.
And by the way, Joe puts on a good point there, folks. Remember, I focus heavily on all these items, every facet of the construction. I focus on what impact it's going to have on the value, the appraised value of the house. All right. So that really is important because remember, ultimately, it's got to make economic sense. So remember that whether it's HVAC, electrical, plumbing, redesign, we even focus on the type of materials, which one's going to have a greater return, and that's why we never go with cheap. We go with somewhere in the middle. Sometimes some of the things we actually start like sinks. We started going to acrylic sinks because they last longer than metal sinks, what most people use.
Pina, did you have something to add to that?
I did. Al, I have a question for you. You mentioned that you would go over the cost and the expense and the profit on one of the houses you were showing. Are you still planning to do that today, or are you gonna do it next session?
Oh, no, you're talking about, we went over like we did on Dawson 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Mhm.
You got it. No, yeah, I didn't have anything so much in writing because I was focusing more
Okay.
on electrical, the post interior. But I
Right.
did give a general a general overview of what we bought it for, the 80,000, but 280, 80,000, and it'll be praised a little bit, probably around 410, 412 to be exact. A little smaller margin, but enough margin on a condo. Remember, but when you have a water property, because that will never really lower in price because there's only so many water properties available, we can withstand that lower margin. But
So,
in 2 weeks on the major gut rebuild, we're going to go actually over much more detail on the cost
Okay.
versus even Dawson.
Okay.
And we're going to go into what we calculate and estimate what we bought it for and every facet of the cost. So you can actually see a breakdown of the cost that we estimate.
Right. Okay. You kind of answered this too when you were talking about what you replace in the house. Ernest had asked, can you mix plumbing, steel, copper, PVC piping, or do you have to replace everything?
It's best really to replace it if it's copper, especially if it's copper, because copper will pit over time and you'll end up having holes. It just over time, that's what happens with copper. The plastic, the PVC has been around for a long time and never really have problems with that.
Ernest, change it all to PVC as much as you can. Even underground, change it to PVC. And let me give you a little story of what just happened to us in one of our condo rentals. Upstairs unit started leaking into our unit. And when they opened up the wall, it was, what was it, lead piping?
Yes, it was all
Cast iron
and galvanized.
and galvanized steel that started, it's a 45-year-old unit building. It like all steel, it started to rot. And so there was leaking, but get this, so they fixed it. We opened up all the more of the walls because there was so much mold that came that occurred in less than 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then we saw that the main pipes had major rust belts on it, pelts on it. And we told the HOA that they should replace it all with PVC, right?
Yes,
And what did they tell you?
and they said they were going to bring it to the board. They brought it to the board and they didn't want to do it. It was too expensive.
You got it. And let me tell you something to that. And that's to the question, Ernst, or Ernie. It's not a matter if that piping is going to implode and leak. It's a matter when, right?
Yeah,
What-
absolutely.
one-
Time.
100% sure. So again, replace 100% of your piping to PVC when you can, and take pictures, because that actually impacts your insurance cost. The insurance you place on that house. Whenever I actually show my pictures of all my PVC in the house, just like this house here, we are going to show the insurance company, and it actually helps reduce the cost of my home insurance.
Then the second part to that question, you noticed that the framing was painted or primer painted. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, that actually, because there was smoke damage and there was mold in here, there was a little mold too. A lot of remediation companies will come in and they will clean the studs with, they'll wash them and then they'll paint them all white. And that's to actually kill the smell of the smoke. It's like a heavy primer that they put on it. And that kills the smell of the actual smoke smell.
You got it.
And then the last questions were kind of along those lines about sharing the purchase price, the cost of the remodel. But we'll go into later to future sessions about your financing and economics on those houses. Sorry.
Yeah, next week, but in 2 weeks is a third of the class is going to be on the economics and the capital piece, 1/3 of it.
And I think we're going to get this question a lot too. Sonia said it almost seems like a new build versus a gut, or a new construction versus a gut rebuild.
Yeah, that's a good question. Very good question. And just the fact that you say that, we did our job. Because, because when you, there is a big, and we're going to get into that in much more detail on what are the specific economic dynamics of a gut rebuild versus a new construction. Particularly, and I'm going to tell you something right now, particularly today. I will try to do as much gut, 3-4 years ago, I would probably 5 years ago, we were demolishing as much as we can. And all of it if we can. Why? The construction costs were much lower, much lower. So your cost per square foot today has increased probably 40%. So now new construction is very much more difficult to do cost-wise. And you still can do it in a certain area if it's done like what I do. I'll do like right now we're going to start to focus on a certain area in Tampa. We're going to do a lot of rebuilds, but it's going to take about 1 year to 2 years to increase the values enough to where it becomes economically feasible to do a new construction. So to your question, yeah, if it looks more like a new construction, that's what all gutted rebuilds should look like. It should look like a new house. And what's the value of that? it's going to get appraised like a new house. My gut rebuilds have an average of a 37% increase in appraisal value over a comparable. In other words, my 3-bedroom, 2-bath gut rebuild will be 35% higher on appraisal than a house down the street that just, that has no work.
Right. From Joanne, and this again will probably be another session, but she said, are there any funding sources from government for these projects?
All right, you're talking to, this is where the, what they call this, I'm Democrat, Republican, communist, socialist, and what's the last one? What's it called? I forgot, libertarian. This is the libertarian in me. I don't want no government money. And this, and remember, this is, if you're getting into like mixed use, much larger projects, then some of the tax credit, we're talking tax credit type of government subsidies. Those are kind of not direct cash, but they're like guarantees. Yeah, I would get into some of that, but you got to be very, very careful when you're using government money because of the restrictions that come with it. There's great and you got to read what they offer. You got to read the fine print, because they may control the cost of the sale, the cost of the rental price, even the cost of, I've seen, I forgot the name of the program. They were even in one program that after the crash, the great crash 10 years ago, NSP, they were actually controlling how much you can make in profit, which was nuts. So yeah, there isn't, and not only that, today there's, and to your question directly, there's not much government money at all for single family rebuilding.
Oh, Walter.
Al, I just want to add to that. As a recovering government employee who administered those programs, he is exactly correct. The requirements that you have for environmental reviews, for the way that the work has to be done, for the qualifying of the buyers, to even the sales price, it just doesn't make economic sense. I mean, even the nonprofits here locally are starting to do without the government funding just because it is so restrictive, it's so time consuming. And Al did say time is one of your most valuable resources. Government funding to apply, to implement, it takes up a lot of time. And in the end, it's really not worth it. You can help more people without the funding than you can with the funding. And that's just been my experience. And I've got over 25 years of government experience.
Exactly. I mean, she was the director of housing for a couple of cities. So, she knows, Vanessa knows very well. And I got to tell you that in the end, believe it or not, for single family construction, all of you, and we're going to actually dedicate one course to complete construction lines of credit. And we're going to bring on a couple of banks to talk about it. Projects, single family housing projects scare the banks with that don't use government money, scare the banks less because of potential red tape, all the things that a government can do to make that project not only unprofitable, but even penalize the project.
Jules, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. In Baltimore, we use state dollars from the state DHCD, and we use Baltimore City DHCD dollars on our projects. And that means that you have to add a minimum of 90 days because of the red tape and being able to get your money. But more importantly, you have to have money because a lot of those programs work on reimbursable. And so if you don't have a line of credit, or if you don't have a loan to be able to facilitate the rehab, then you're going to get caught. And you're going to get caught, and you're going to have to stop your work, and you're going to be paying twice as much for your renovation because you were waiting on money to come in from the state or the city. So it's not the type of money that you really want to rely on for your development if you have to, if you don't have to.
And to that point, to give you a little bit more of detail on the cost, let's say and pretend you or your organization or company has $1 million construction line of credit. You're going to pay interest on that whether you build one house or 100 houses. By the way, you only pay the interest when you draw down on it, but you're still paying, some cost for that even if you don't use it all. But let's say you use that $1 million and let's say an average house takes, on rebuild takes 90 days. And it's 250,000 total cost. So that's 4 houses at a time you can build. But if it's an extra 30 days, you basically, if you do the math, you're going to lose, and you're making 70,000 a house. And because of the extra 30, now 60 days, you can build 2 less houses. So you just lost 140,000 net profit. On top of what the profit you make just by the loss of time, that extra 30, 60 days. So time is money. Now, in that $1 million, can you build 6 houses or 12 houses? It's really simple. How many times can you turn over that tranche of money? And you're going to find out, like many of us, that $1 million sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. Then you go, 2 million is good. No, I need 3 million, then 4 million, because it allows you to turn over, to build more housing and to scale it where timing is still an issue, but not as much of an issue as it was if you only are building 2 houses. So the more money allows you to scale where you're not penalized as hard on the economics, but you're still penalized nonetheless if you're going to take an extra 30, 60 days on that house, or the government, but not only the government, but even, that's why we worry about our trades. Hey, is that plumber going to take it? He can't come for 2 weeks. Imagine if everyone can't come for 2 weeks. You just lost a month between 4 trades. You lost an entire month of it just sitting still because you're waiting for them to come do the work. You just lost a month. You just lost $70,000. Take that 70,000, burn it in the trash. So time is money when it concerns construction lines of credit. And it's real.
Hey, Al, I'd like to add a little, this is Joe again. I know there was some talk going on about the subsidies, public subsidies, government assistance and things like that. I think that that's probably true in a lot of states, but again, here in California, it's almost like you can't do anything without a subsidy because, over the past 10 years, incomes have only grown like 10% compared to 30% increase in housing prices. Right now in California, the median home price is over $800,000. That's the highest that it's ever been since I've been involved in housing, which is over 30 years. And so we're like, almost dependent on subsidies here, only because at the lower income levels, it is impossible for somebody who's earning 80% of the median income to purchase a median priced home in their neighborhood. You need a subsidy. It just can't be done otherwise, unless you're a nonprofit and you have enough profit margin, you have enough space in there to carry it back if you want to make a profit, and then you can kind of meter it out over time. But I just wanted to emphasize that in some states, if not all the states, with the exception of a few, subsidies are almost mandatory.
If I was in California, Joe, I would probably 80% of my construction would be focused on condo conversions. There's I would go out and purchase multifamily housing projects that are at the end of their tax credit cycle. And usually when that happens, the owners want to sell it. I would then purchase it, convert it. If you got 200 units, make a third of those, combine some of those units. So they're 2-bedroom and 2-bedroom and a 4-bedroom, 1-bedroom to 2-bedroom to 4 bedrooms. We've done that before, where you have variation of bedroom sizes. And yeah, it's a condo, but ownership is ownership regardless. Remember, it's all about ownership and being able to increase that equity. And in California, it's going to go nothing but up regardless if it's a condo or not.
I appreciate that, Al. Thank you so much.
Hey, Al, the other thing is your Robin Hood model sort of allows you to create your own subsidy.
You got it. And by the way, Joe, for those of you who have, there are areas outside of these high, like more inland where you can build. Remember, wherever you can build and make extra, what I call market rate housing. Guess what we're going to do this year? We're actually going, I'm looking for a property this year. We're going to build $1 million home. We're already building $700,000, $800,000 homes. Now we're going to build $1 million. But remember, we're going to make probably $300,000, $350,000 on that house, $400,000 on that house. So Robin Hood is absolutely critical. Whether it's in California or anywhere, you must do Robin Hood. You must do Robin Hood. And this, listen, this is the problem we're having. All of you that are nonprofits that have stupid board members who don't know shit about building a house, and yet they're going to try to dictate policy and say, well, you know, that doesn't help the poor. Listen, you're going to, it still doesn't help. It helps the poor, the low moderate income families, but it helps them in a different way. You got to bring that profit back and blend it into your overall housing project program. That's what we do. So everybody, I don't care who you are, everybody should be practicing Robin Hood housing development within their overall program. The sooner the better.
Another question from Walter. Do your gut rebuilds qualify for LEEDs? That was-
LE,
LEED certification.
oh, LEED certification. We've never looked at the LEED certification, you know.
It's costly. They
Yeah.
have you pay like $2,500 just to get that certification.
We
and,
never had to, I mean, yeah, we've never had to do it because again, market rate, I mean, what we're doing, how we're doing it, we've never had to really rely on the LEED certification. I remember LEED, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's voluntary anyway. I don't think it's required.
Right.
No, and folks, but that comes up, remember, the less your focus is your focus should be on building a house to code that's quality, impactful, and profitable. All right. You know, this is again why I don't involve any politics, politicians, or government, because I'm going to build what the market. Remember what we said at the beginning? I build and we build what the market demands and wants. That's what Sergio and I build. So you too, let the market dictate what you're going to do with your housing, not, you know, an outside entity.
Do we have any more questions from the audience, from any other attendees? You can go ahead and jump in, ask Al or Sergio directly.
Yeah, Al, since you guys are doing this substantial gut rehab, is there in Florida sort of a baseline or a threshold that when you cross it, when you're doing a substantial rehab, that the city or the county in Florida will consider that new construction, and then you have to do everything to code?
Yeah. Actually, you know what it's
There's a 50% rule. If you're doing more than 50% of the home, yes.
and what we use, and Joe, what most of the cities do, and that's a good, we're going to integrate one of our projects that we're doing in Orlando next in 2 weeks into the big one, because that's a major, where we actually, we're actually kept all the walls. We gutted and demolished basically the entire house except for the walls. Now, albeit we just fired that GC, it was done wrong, but it was still, the intent was to gut it and demo it, and keep the walls, so we didn't have to qualify as a new construction that brings with it major impact fees. We're always, and we're going to go over that in 2 weeks, that the more of the minute and specific details of the economics of new construction versus gut rebuild, and why we do gut rebuild, and everything from impact fees, you know, to truss cost, rafter cost, you know, some of the increased cost. Foundation is the biggest cost, right?
That's the main thing. And if that's not right, spend the money there, especially there, because if that's not right, everything else is gonna be wrong.
You got it. And foundation is a major expense. Actually, I think for me, that's the major expense. If I can avoid that expense, that makes that gut and rebuild, more applicable. But then again, remember, like Yolanda was saying earlier, it looks like a new house. Well, it is a new house.
All right, I think that may be it for the questions unless we have anyone else. We're still doing good on time. Al, if you want to close it out, and then I can give some final remarks.
You got it.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. Like I said, do 10. We're going to send it out to everybody. And first off, thank you I know it's President's Day, and most of you are all of you practically are off. So I really want to applaud your dedication. It's very impressive, but definitely 10 to 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the Godzilla. It's going to be, to me, the single most important training session other than a capital one, that's going to be the single most important session we hold in 2 weeks on the major monster Godzilla gut rebuild. Thank you very much. And this session is recorded and will be online at www.thehousingpros.org.
Yep, I just dropped that registration link in the chat. Really quick, if anybody wants to stay on, we sent out an email to everyone about a new network that we have available on our website. So while the trainings aren't going on, we want to be able to keep you all connected. If you have any questions in the meantime, send them through the network. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. So you can see our website here. First, the training videos. A lot of you ask about the training videos. Go ahead on and scroll down. You'll see the past modules. They're listed here, as well as the PowerPoint presentation that goes along with the module, and any information about the property that we're going over during that session. So you'll see the third session up here this week. You'll get an email, of course, to let you know that the video is up. So for the networking forum, this is what it looks like. What you'll go in right here, it'll say log in, sign up. You can log in for free. It takes about 30 seconds. It'll send an email to your account to confirm it, and you can come right on and come into any of these discussion topics where we have helpful links and resources, different links that we've given during the past sessions. Also add your own. If you have anything that you would like to share or know that's helpful, either in your state, your county, your city, share it there. Introduce yourself. Maybe you have resources that you can share with someone else. Come in, say where you're from. Home and construction. So general Q&A. So just what we're doing right here. If a question ever pops up, or maybe you're in the midst of a construction, a new rebuild or a gut rebuild, and you need to ask a question to the general public, or to our attendee group, drop it in here and someone will get back to you that's able to help you out, so that you don't ever feel like you're lost, or you have to wait until the next session to ask your question. It's right here online. So take a moment, come on here, log in, and start connecting. But that's all that I have. If anyone has any questions about that, or in the meantime, you can send an email to housingpros.fmcrc@gmail.com. Also follow us on Facebook. I don't want to sound like a promoter, but we have a lot out here, a lot of resources, and all of it's free. All of it's free. So continue to keep following us. Check your emails. If you want to be added to the email list, or you know someone that wants to be added, shoot that over to me as well. So those are my final remarks. Al gave his closing remarks. If there's anything else anyone has, if not, then we will see you on March 7th. All right, awesome.
Stay warm.
Yeah.